Hi guys, how are you doing? This is Madhvi from TaroticallySpeaking.com and elearntarot.com, and today here we are. We are in the Decan, or rather, I would say we are in the zodiac sign of Pisces, and we're gonna do our Decan Walk journey through the Decans of Pisces. And yes, this is the last sign on our zodiac wheel, and I simply cannot believe that we've made it so far. I mean, oh my god, we started with Mars in Aries, and we're going to wrap up with Mars in Pisces in, when we do the 10 of cups, the third decan of Pisces. But I mean, this is wild. And yes, this is technically, the last video of the walk itself, but there is one more video in this series there where I'm going to talk about all these very interesting patterns that I have observed while we made these videos, and about the decans and stuff. So there's still one more video coming easily. Anyhow, here we are, and my goodness, did this Decan Walk, especially with the Pisces thing, put me in a whole lot of water. Because as I started making these slides, I had a water leak, and the water was also underneath my computer table. So I had to basically pack everything up and bring it to the upstairs guest room. And so here I am. And so, yeah, and coincidentally, of course, in real life where we are at, we had, when all this was happening, when I was working on the slides and all this was happening, we had Mars and Sun and Mercury and also the North Node in Pisces. And coincidentally, all of this is also my eighth house. So isn't that just absolutely bonkers when stuff like this starts to happen? It's like you're doing something, you're working on a project, you're really, really aligned with it, and then your life starts to also energetically align with everything. That water leak was totally uncalled for, but Mars happened, right? Like the water heater absolutely that's the hot water heater, right? Like that, which ensures that you get hot water when you go take a shower or whatever. And it just basically broke, cracked open, and there was water everywhere. So yeah, I'm living it. But here we are. We persist. And so we have the decan, we are going to walk through the decans of Pisces. And yes, of course, all the links to the downloadable handouts and whatnot are in the description. I'm going to also make a blog post of this, as with every other, as with every Decan Walk thing that I've done. So go take a look, because it's going to have journaling prompts. You can also adjust the playback speed. So there's that. Sign up for my newsletter. So, you can keep a track of what I'm up to, and, get some inside tarot stuff that I kind of talk about all the time. And yes, please like, share, and subscribe, because we gotta feed the beast that is the algorithm, right? And when you do that, like, a lot more people who are interested in this topic will also find my videos, and maybe they'll like it too. So there's that. All right, so let's get into it. Wow. All right, let's talk about Pisces. From the Star Codes Astro Oracle, we see the keyword here is sensitized, right? Essentially, the symbol of Pisces, if when you see it most places on the internet here and there, you see two fishes sort of swimming in a circular manner, chasing each other's tail in a way. Even this glyph here, if you see, it resembles two fish that are attached to each other but are swimming away from each other. And Pisces has that very strong vibe. Like if you've interacted with someone who has a very strong Pisces energy, you'll see that they often have this very contrary energy to them, that one day they are one way and the other day they are the other way, and it's like both of that is them, but it's also very different aspects. And there's probably a very good reason for that. Pisces is a water sign, right? And water is water. It flows. It bends to the shape that it is in, and it has no solidity to it in a way, and so it can be any which way it likes. Uh, Traditionally, Pisces was ruled by Jupiter, but then the modern ruler is also Neptune. So that's interesting. The Lord of Water. Now, what is this? The whole energy of Pisces is that because it's this pure watery sign, and it is the 12th zodiac sign, which also sort of maps with the 12th house. So all of that, it is, if you see the first house as the starting place for your identity forming, and then each house you learn something, you grow, you mature a bit, and then you move on to the next house, and that's kind of how the journey goes on. So when you reach the 12th house, it's all about dissolution, it's about dissolving, it's about merging with the divine, if you will, or completely the whole identity of yours, which started in the first house, in the 12th house, it dissolves, right? It merges. So that is the whole vibe of Pisces. It is a very spiritually motivated sign, or it's all about the spiritual experiences. It wants to merge with the divine. And so because of that perspective, they don't really place much value on the traditional typical values of the world, right? They are very sacrificing in their nature. They're very selfless. They have a lot of sympathy and a lot of empathy, right? Two different things. Look it up. They can, because of their whole nature, because of their very fluid sort of being, energetically, they can be very enchanting, very bewitching, very seductive. Pisceans are very non judgmental. They have strong instincts. They're very intuitive. They have great insights. Their imagination is wild. They're very creative. And you'll often find them in areas or fields which have to do with fantasy, art, music, poetry, with, mystical realms, something like that. And of course, just like every other sign, this one also has its slightly not so good vibes. Because of this very fluid nature of their whole being, they often find very hard to develop their own sort of identity, right? They often can seem, oh my goodness, and this is something I have often seen too. They can they can play this role, or they can absolutely see themselves as this victim, helpless, right? Eternally I have been tortured, kind of a thing. I have encountered many water signs who, it's not just Pisces. Water signs go there. Uh, Again, I mean, I'm not saying all water signs do that, or all water sign people are this way, but they have that little vibe. And we all have water signs in our charts too. So, just putting that out there. I'm not singling anyone out, but that can happen. They can be very helpless sometimes. They can, Pisces people, on the sort of negative side of the spectrum, can be very manipulative. They can also be very submissive, very codependent, very completely dependent, right? They can be all about that self pity. They can completely give in to addictions, delusions. Uh, Sometimes whatever they're saying can seem very vague. It's all flowing, right? There's fantasy, and then there's flights of fantasy, right? Uh, the escapism is strong, right? And with Pisces, it can sometimes be very unrealistic what they want, or what they desire. they can be very, very sensitive, right? And again, the flowing nature makes it very difficult for them to sort of be very objective about stuff. And so, yeah, that's the whole vibe of Pisces. It's imagine water as a person, if you will, and just go with that. So yeah, they often see their body as a cage, and so I was like, oh, that's the song. Remember, my body is a cage. Was it Peter Gabriel? Yeah, that song. It kind of embodies this whole. Why would it embody? It is what it is. It is the whole Piscean vibe, right? It's I think in that way, Pisces is all about wanting to free themselves from all the structures that, it has, as we walk through all the signs, the different aspects and the different structures that we've embraced, embodied, lived through. When it comes to Pisces, it's like, just, I don't want any of that. Just let it go. Break away from that. Drop it. Let it all melt. Let it all flow. Right? That's what happens in Pisces. So then, let's come to our tarot. And it is interesting that we have the Moon card from our Tarot Major Arcana that is associated with Pisces, right? Again, uh, the High Priestess is the card which is associated with the astrological body of the Moon, and it's the Moon card which is associated with the zodiac sign of Pisces. I didn't do this, guys. It's, someone else made this happen. Okay, so don't look at me for answers. Now, when you look at all these card images from the Rider-Waite-Smith, from the Tarot de Marseille, from the Thoth, from the Telos deck, you will notice that each of these cards has a few of these sort of commonalities, if you will. You will notice two towers, right, on either side of the card image. Uh, and then you'll notice sometimes there's a path through it, like directly, or maybe it's not directly there, but you can see there's a way through those two towers. You will see these two, dog or wolf-like creatures on either side by each tower, right? And you'll notice there's a water body and a crab-like creature or a scarab beetle that kind of emerges from that water body. And not to forget the main character, our moon, which appears sometimes as an eclipsing moon or sometimes as a moon phase, if you will. And this one's right there between those two towers in the sky, big moon hanging in there, right? It is the moon card, so it has to be there. So those are the main symbols, if you will. So let's start from the bottom and work our way to the top of this whole symbol thing. We see the water body, right? And the water body has, as with most tarot symbolism, water is, when you see water bodies, it's the subconscious. It's talking about the subconscious. And we see that there's a creature that emerges, right? The crustacean, like a crab-like creature that comes out, or in the case of the Thoth and the Telos, we have a scarab. We also see these little ripples on the water body. The water body evokes a different reality, if you will. Or if you're looking at it as this is the subconscious, this is the inner world, this is the unconscious. So whatever is emerging from it is carrying, creating these ripples. It's making these changes. Something is happening here. And it's wild that we have a crab or a crustacean coming out, because the astral body, moon, rules the sign of Cancer, which is a crab. It's The symbolism is wild here, guys. And so we have this creature coming out, and many. I think in the Rider-Waite book, it's called a crayfish, and crayfish live at the bottom of most ponds. They survive on, whatever is at the absolute bottom of a water body, and so this is stuff from deep, deep, deep parts of your subconscious that's it's emerging here. Now, because it's Pisces, I guess it's everything is melting, so everything is now coming out. And this is deep insights or deep fears. This could be anything, uh, good and bad that comes out from there. So that's your crustacean. And it's again, it's a crustacean, so it's holding it, it's keeping it safe, and it's still wanting to emerge. It's emerging. And then we see these two, dogs or wolves, if you will. I used to always think that, one is a tame one is a wild one. It's a primal instinct that has somehow gotten domesticated, but it's still there because when they look at the moon, they still bark, right? And as I was, reading through the symbolism stuff in all the books, I was like, oh, dog barking at the moon is a futile attempt to oppose something over which you have no influence. I'm like, thanks, I needed to hear that. But it's also the primal instinct, right? Like you look, the dogs, wolves will look at the moon and they'll go, ooh, and they'll howl. And although it won't make much of a difference, it's kind of how they communicate too, maybe. So you see that, right? Oh, yeah. Now let's talk about those towers, those two towers. Essentially, those two towers, they represent the threshold or the gateway, that path. You could be either walking towards the water body or away from it, the water body. But one way or the other, that, the space between those two towers is the gate, the threshold through which you may move up or down. A threshold is important, a thing which says, hey, you're crossing now to the other side. This is important, right? Now, if you've read a little bit about the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, you'll also have threshold guardians, and you see these jackal-headed creatures here in the Thoth and in the Telos, and they are your incorruptible threshold guardians who only let those without blame to pass through. Isn't that interesting? So you have to be worthy, right? It's all about that. You have to be in a place where you're worthy. That's when you will be allowed to pass through. And when you do that, what happens? You will either pass through from here, you will take all your wisdom from the subconscious and go forward, or you will come into that and you will go back into that. You will dissolve into that subconscious. You will have to, or you're diving into it. Either way, because that's the doorway you can go, right? So these two towers, if you see this, the flow of the energy here, over here, very interestingly, it is supposed to resemble the knees of a woman who is giving birth. So now again, you're moving towards the water body here because whatever comes out, right? So there's also that. So giving birth, again, it's all about new life forming, new life, it's already formed in the womb. Now it's actually birthing. So we see that, little symbolism there, and then that's the path. And what we see here again in the thought is right where she's supposed to, be given birth, the scarab beetle emerges with the sun disk, right? And over here, again, the scarab beetle, and this resembles the brain. So the sun, of course, represents consciousness, all right, and resurrection, awakening, right? So as you've gone deep into the unconscious, and now you've seen everything, you've understood everything, you figured it out, and you come out with that sun of consciousness, the blazing light, right? And here the scarab of the Telos deck, it represents the brain. So we have the left side and the right side. The left side controls the right half of the body, and the right brain controls the left half of the body. So one is very logical, whereas the other is very intuitive. And so both these functions work together. It all comes from the subconscious, though, which is wild. So here we have the threshold, here we have the primal instincts, here we have stuff that is coming out of the the watery realm of the subconscious, creating ripples as it does, and that births something that is, the clarity of the sun, the consciousness, the combination of logic and intuition, if you will. So we see all of that. Now, very interestingly, in the Rider Waite, we also see these drops which look like yods, which are again, the first alphabet of the name of God. So it's about spiritual energies. We also see in the Marseille Tarot and in the Telos Tarot, it's actually drops of blood. This moon card is linked with path number 29 on the Kabbalah Tree of Life. This aligns with the 29-day orbit of the moon and the 29-day menstrual cycle of women. And those blood droplets link to, that, the menses. But then the 9 months of pregnancy and the ninth Sephiroth of Yesod, which is also associated with the moon. So all of this, layers upon layers upon layers of, symbolism here. And we see that. And then, of course, is this big moon, right? It's right there for us to see. And here we see this is an eclipsing moon, right? Or you can see this is a phase of the moon. And here, in Telos, this moon looks pretty upset. In the Telos book, it says this is in a waning phase and headed for the dark of the moon. In the Thought, this downward facing moon crescent represents the sinister forces of the moon, that is derangement, possession, obsession, and madness. Ooh, right? And then here in the Rider Waite and in the Marseille, here the moon is the eclipsing moon, right? So we see all of these different aspects of the moon, and moon, we know, again, connects with water bodies. We are all 70% water. The earth is 70% water. It's interesting, ultimately. It connects with all of that. So this is all to say this is a great symbolism class, but ultimately moon here is talking about this very Piscean energy, if you will, and because that's where we're going with this, right? We have to connect it with Pisces. And again, we've seen Pisces is about dissolving, it's merging with the divine. It is talking about, again, it is the depths of the subconscious. And here in this card, we not only see that, we see the threshold, we see the path towards that, but we also see what happens when we dive deep, where we come out and we carry realizations with us. It's not just the journey going into it, but also coming out of it. And it aligns with our, the different cycles, different parts of the world in the cycle of the moon. And and for women, it's kind of also aligned with our menstrual cycle, the birthing cycle. And we also see that imagery of, okay, so Nut is the goddess of the heavens, right? And these are her thighs, and she's giving birth to the sun every morning. That's how the story goes with them. And the scarab beetle carries the sun through the sky. So that's how they made sense. That's how a lot of these myths symbolically made sense of what happened, I guess, in the world. But yeah, I mean, this is why ultimately, as I said, moon, this card, the image, talks about different aspects of the Piscean energy. I'm starting to see that, where it's talking about what happens before you enter the Piscean watery world, and after you come out of it, and what do you carry with you. So it's got a mixture, both sides. You see that. Which is why it makes sense that the moon card, the meaning of the moon card in your tarot interpretation is always, very mixed. It can be, again, intuition, sensitivity, prophetic dreams, creativity, imagination, but then it gets into confusion, inner fears, anxiety, deception, manipulation, mysteries of the unknown, right? We saw that it's so much aligned with the Piscean vibe. You see that here as well. We have emotions, the female principle, it's the motherhood energy, it's the repeating cycles, water related, mysterious, enchanting, dreams, right? Longing for the unreachable, awakening hidden forces, influences from past or past lives. Yeah, right? Because in the subconscious, you get all of that, the occult stuff, the past, depression, addiction, dark feelings. Yes. Hmm? Oh, you have the threshold and the fear of the threshold, insecurity, nightmares, scary memories, fear of failure, dark premonitions, intoxication, darkness, right? The subconscious, imagination, faith, hmm? Illusions, dissolution, fluctuation, transcendence, alternate realities, altered states of consciousness. Ooh. Those secretly working against you. Ooh. Things hidden or locked away. Hidden desires, taboos, fears, repressions, crises. The dark night of the soul. You see, the moon, therefore, just like few other cards, it's got a mixed bag sort of set of meanings, both upright and reversed. If you're into that sort of, if you're into the upright and reverse thing, but in either case, it has every, both vibes, and there's a reason for that, because again, we are seeing both sides of the threshold here, in the water and out of the water. So yeah, I think I like it. The moon card is one of those cards that no matter how much time you spend looking at it, it kind of always confuses you. You're never quite clear what it means. Uh, and then at some point you look at it and like, okay, it's getting a little bit clearer, and then you come back to it and it's like, I'm never sure, even now. So this is wild, and I like it. I like it. So this is the Tarot Piscean energy. Okay. So now with that, let's start. Let's look at the first decan. And here we have Saturn in Pisces. And these are the first 10 days or the first 10 degrees of Pisces. And the Picatrix decan description is a man with two bodies pointing with his fingers. And so we see this man, he has two bodies. I mean, come on. The meaning associated here with it is attacking with violence, weakness, extensive traveling, suffering, tiring, looking for wealth, earning a living. Okay. Now, we are also going to look at the Telos card, because the Telos deck has incorporated the Picatrix meanings in there. And we see a man with two bodies. We actually see two men here, and they're pointing with their fingers. And they are kind of sitting on this rock. And again, that's again very Saturn in Pisces, so that rock is also melting. Isn't that wild? So and the keyword here is indolence. That's a very interesting meaning, because indolence means, I guess, laziness, right? Sluggishness. So yeah. Now we'll look more into this imagery when we get into the cards, but essentially, this is the energy of this decan, right? And the two bodies could be talking about the duality, the two fish, yes, and then Saturn over there coming and doing its thing, right? So Saturn, we've met Saturn before, right? Saturn is an earthy planet and rules Capricorn and Aquarius. Saturn is about structure. Saturn is about wisdom, maturity through adversity, responsibilities, personal authority, accountability, karmic justice, right? Uh, Boundaries, borders, service without expectations. Uh, essentially the structures of society, bones, teeth, foundations, traditions, time, durability and longevity, ambition, organization, right? Persistence, discipline, pragmatic. Now, all of these qualities of Saturn are there. But then the negative vibes again, negative sides we have. Saturn can be, as it represents boundaries and borders, it can also say restrictions, obstacles, struggles, delays. And Saturn can be stuck in old ways. Saturn will put you through trials and hard work. Saturn is your karma coming for you. So when you look at Saturn, we are looking at this whole energy of, that this is the structure and we must follow this structure without any ego. And through this difficult journey, we will attain maturity. That is the whole vibe of structure. I'm sorry, the whole vibe of Saturn. I'm sorry, I get all right. And then when we bring it into our tarot, we look at the world card, and world is like, oh, look at, the world dancer. She's completely in tune with the universe. But we also notice this, the laurel wreath around her. And that reminds me of Saturn's, the rings around Saturn, which is also the reason why Saturn is associated with, borders and restrictions and limitations and so forth. So yes, she does dance to the tune of the universe, but within that restriction, if you will. This is the card of success and victory and achievement. But this again, if we see the journey of the major arcana, card number 21 is the absolutely last card on that journey, which means this is not an easily achieved success. This is a success that has come with a lot of hard work. So we do see the little Saturn vibe there. And as we've seen before, Saturn was the last planet in, astrology for a very long time until Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were discovered. So there's that. Saturn represented the end, the limit, right? The last one. And Saturn, mythologically, of course, has this whole story. Saturn is the father of Zeus or Jupiter, and the son of Uranus, or later discovered Uranus. So there is a very interesting and story and myth and all of that, and we've explored that earlier when we looked at earlier decans. So Saturn will represent success and victory and accomplishment and completion and fulfillment and all of that, but after a long struggle. And we see that in the world card too. We see that Saturn can also, in that vibe, in the world card energy, talk about having to come to that point after integrating different lessons along the way, right? Different lessons in each of the cards. So we are looking at someone who is very centered, who is very sort of aligned with that, and therefore very selfless. And that's again Saturn, right? Okay. So with that said, let's look at the card from the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. Here, Saturn in Pisces comes with the keyword loss, right? We see in the top half of the picture, we have a big house with its grounds. We see some couples strolling there in a carefree manner. And then below, we have a raven that picks at the last scrap of flesh from a bony skull. Ooh, right? Traditionally, Saturn can signify loss. It does signify loss, right? In that way. Saturn lost his throne to Jupiter, to Zeus, right? We know the story, how that happened, why that happened. And so Saturn is about ambition, and Pisces here in the view of this particular deck, Pisces is about understanding, sympathy, and sacrifice. So when they put together, you see that a combination of Saturn and Pisces will create a person who has a lot of self-discipline and responsibility, and is invested in helping people with problems, right? That desire to help people and the responsibility. And then the whole problems, right? That comes from Pisces. They can be very sensitive to the needs of others, and they have difficulty avoiding involvement in helping people because they have a strong insight. So this is very Pisces, and this, they can help people because they understand people or they understand their motivations. Now, Saturn in Pisces, again, the whole desire to serve comes with Saturn. It also comes with Pisces. So they can lose their own identity when they face with other people's demands and other people's sadness, hardships, and sorrows and everything. And then they kind of embrace it. And then they're like, oh, let me fix it for you because, well, it's not just yours, it's mine now. It's like that happens to Saturn and Pisces, right? they the whole Saturn energy also brings the desire to work in isolation or to retreat from the world, right? Because it's too much sometimes. These things can become, these energies can become very compulsive. They force you to be very inward looking. Saturn, again, is all about the karma. It's all about, uh, reframing everything that you do within a structure, if you will. And so this placement creates people who like to study that also, who are very interested in the unconscious mind, in psychology. Now, the lesson here for people with this placement is to sort of, every time they're feeling something deeply, they're like, is this mine or someone else's feeling that I'm picking up on? Their imagination and sympathy can be a little excessive. So you'll often find this, place people with displacement working in hospitals and clinics, or offering therapy or counseling, and they have a very interesting, an interest in the occult as well, because of course Pisces, Saturn, they want to know every aspect of it. So that is the whole vibe from this deck. Okay. Pair that with the energy of 8, which is about accomplishment, consolidations, reevaluation, change, transformation, right? This whole movement here. It's about shift in direction. It's about material power, ambition, balance. And again, doing what needs to be done. And yes, it can be self destructive too. 8 is a very interesting and complex number like that. So you bring all of that together in your tarot image, the 8 of Cups, Saturn in Pisces. Ooh, let's get into it. So we do see in the Rider-Waite, we'll go one by one now. We do see this eclipsing moon here, which is wild because, again, Pisces. And then, of course, the desire to be alone. This guy, he's stacked up all his cups, right? Because very Saturn organized, and he's walking away. He's like, no, I need to be alone, right? We see all that here very nicely, isn't it? Um, wow. So this is all about leaving everything behind and walking away. Now, I also interestingly often see, it's like the stacks, the way he's made it. We have 3 cups, we have 5 cups, and we know from the Rider-Waite tarot, 3 of Cups is the card of celebration, and 5 of Cups is the card of sorrow. And so he's like, oh, sadness and happiness. He stacked them up and he's walking away. And I see that a lot in this card. And with the 8 energy, so this is again a change, a transition, a shift. Isn't that wild? So yeah, we do see this in the Rider-Waite. We see him walking away. We see him moving on, and so there's an ending and possibly a new beginning. And this could also refer to a very mundane way, talk about traveling, moving house. Now, coming to the Tarot de Marseille, this is interesting because here we have sort of a different flow of things. We have 3 cups at 2 ends, right? And then 2 cups right in the middle. And so it looks like, okay, this is the 2 of Cups, right? This is a couple. They're coming together. And then we have these sort of, stems, yes, with leaves and sort of going, connecting each and every cup to each other. But right in the center, we have a flower, we have flowers surrounding. So these two cups become sort of like the center point of this card. So this is a couple coming together. And then we have, interestingly, also these leaves and stems, they sort of divide the cups, also keeping everyone separate, but they're all connected, right? This is interesting because, which is why, so we see a couple coming together, and maybe this is two different families, and they're separate, but they're connected, and they're very connected and interested and involved in this couple's life. And that is kind of the core meaning of this card in the Marseille Tarot world, where it talks about developing relationships, or rather involvement of friends and relatives in a couple's relationship. This, well, if we're not looking at a couple specifically, we're just looking at a bunch of people, each cup representing one person. Then, there's a lot of interconnections in this group, if you will. This very interestingly talks of favorable personal relationships. This can be an extended family where many people interact with each other. Now, so we see a very different vibe of Saturn and Pisces in the Marseille Tarot. Here, we kind of see maybe a little happy connection, because Saturn is about the structure, but also space. So we see that structure, but we also see the space being given to everybody. Saturn is about balanced interactions. This card, if you see top and bottom and left and right, there's a very interesting symmetry and balance there. So we do see that. And Pisces, of course, the whole melting, the connecting, it's there. It's a very, very happy, positive picture of Saturn and Pisces in the Marseille Tarot. Kinda, unless you like meddling relatives all the time, then it's then it's different. Okay, let's come to the thought. This one's called indolence, right? Indolence, as I said, it means laziness. It means avoiding any activity. It's the lethargy, right? And what happens? Imagine, if you will, you have a very structure. Like someone who likes structure, someone who likes systems and processes. The Saturn, and then he comes in this very melting, free flowing world of Pisces. What's going to happen? All the structures that are built will soon, they won't collapse, they'll melt. Now, we see this energy here. The cups are stacked in the same sort of arrangement that we see in the Marseille Tarot, three at the top, three at the bottom, and two in the center. And again, we see these connections between them as well. So, and we see the water flowing. But some of the chalices are damaged, right? Which some are, half filled. So we have, I guess, attrition, insufficient vitality. The sea, the water, it doesn't look like nice and blue and clear. It looks green and moldy and dark and melancholy. And that's again Saturn, the whole melancholy of Saturn and the melancholy of Pisces. Don't forget, Pisces can also get very melancholy. And oh my God, when they come together, then it's, oh, let's get sad. Sadness is a theme. And again, it's all that weighing it down, right? Making it like, I don't want to move. I want to wallow here in this, in the whole, the world is horrible, and let's all wallow here. Right? So it's the disenchantment, if you will. And they love it. They want to be there. They want to remain there. So this card in this space is about broken hopes, disheartenment, stagnation, depression. So when we're looking at business, this could be a stagnant business. This could be lack of energy, mismanagement. Errors cause disappointment, dead feelings, lack of commitment, hopeless relationship, right? And the warning is to please stop clinging to decaying situations. Man, Yeah, walk away. Mm? Oh boy. And finally, we come to the telos. Here we have two men sitting on this two different rocks, right? Now, these two men could correspond to the duality of Pisces, or with Mercury or Gemini, with which the number 8 or the Sephiroth of Hod is associated. Okay. The body can be considered a Saturn structure because it's a thing of matter. And now, although the Deccan thing said that they're pointing at each other, if you look closely, they're kind of sharing a single hand. It is a form of Saturnine binding or restriction. So yeah, so they have to stay together. They can't just move away from each other, isn't it? Now, Eight of Cups is Saturn in Pisces. So we have the Moon card merging with the World card in here. We do see the Moon here. So Pisces is dissolution, merging, and dissolving. Saturn is structures and matter. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. Saturn is about contraction, but Jupiter is about expansion. And these are not compatible archetypes. It's a long past connection, but it's there. So while these two figures, they lean on those, those stone arches, structures, whatever, they're also melting. That the structure, there's water flowing, and those rocks are being worn away by that water into sand, uh, which is again Saturn, the grains of matter. Behind them, ocean waves look like brain waves of sleep. Yeah, and it's connected to the moon card. And then we have these 8 cups. And look very closely, we see this sort of sand castle kind of thing that's happening with that sand. And maybe they use these cups to make those sand castles. And each of these cups are marked with the phases of the moon. And all these cups have their eyes closed, the faces on them, they have eyes closed, except for one. Which one is it? I think this one, which is the last phase of the waning crescent. Now, some of these cups are turned upside down. They have been used to make the ultimate symbol of abandoned success, a sandcastle, whose grains are destined for dissolution. Yes, because see, indolence and abandoned success. Oh, wow, okay. So, sand is both Pisces and Saturn. The castles made of sand eventually fall into the sea. My goodness, this is wild, isn't it? So, yeah, we have success abandoned due to declining interest, spiritual self undoing, being done with worldly striving, impediments, being disheartened, lacking in commitment, withdrawing effort due to a lack of vitality, resignation to fate, need for fresh perspective as things have become still and stagnant, a dissipating sense of reality, structure dissolving, entering the unknown, entering the liminal space of the dream world, finding new purpose and meaning. Oh boy, this is heavy, right? So yeah, I mean, Saturn is always this way, right? Saturn is restriction, it's rules, it's structure, it's rigid, it's all about kind of boxing you in, if you will. And Pisces is resolving, so it's always that fight. And here in this limitless sea of Pisces, Saturn kind of gives up sometimes, most times, right? And so we see that vibe here. Wow. This is nice, isn't it? So let's take a moment to look at the image. Okay. Oof. Now, from that Saturn energy, let's come to 9 of Cups, which is Jupiter in Pisces, and this is the second or the middle decan of Pisces. Breathe. Breathe a bit. Right? So here, Jupiter in Pisces, the Picatrix Decan says this is an upside down man holding food in his hand. Now, I don't know about the upside down part, but the food part definitely is, the whole abundance of Jupiter, if you will. This decan stands for dignity, inspiration, capability of dealing with matters of great importance. There's another description for this decan. It talks about a grave man pointing to the sky. So maybe this upside down man represents to the grave man. I don't know, but the image of the telos card does have a man pointing to the sky. There's also this whole visual of Zeus, who with the lightning bolt, so pointing at the sky, or you're saying, oh, the divine, the sky always is the divine. So we have all of that energy here. Jupiter is, again, it's got a very expansive and sort of abundant sort of vibe to it, which again is nice. And secondly, Jupiter rules Pisces. If we remember that. So it's like the sign ruler is in its own sign. So of course they're happy, right? They're very happy. So this is the card, which is, I don't know. The tarot card is often called the Lord of Happiness, and this is the keyword also is happiness. So we have that here. And we'll talk a little bit more about this image when we look at the Nine of Cups altogether. But this is the second decan, Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces. So, Jupiter is a fiery planet, yes, but rules Pisces and Sagittarius, and it is all about abundance, right? Jupiter is about expansion of your world through education, through law, philosophy, travel, abundance. It brings this very expansive spirit. It's about trusting life. It's how we discover the deep truths. It's about personal meaning, discovery of that personal meaning in life. Everything that is grand and expansive and optimistic and generous and helpful. Jupiter can be very spacious, right? It can absorb diverse perspectives. It's wise. It's about higher understanding, ideals, values, prosperity, growth, fortune, education, study, and all of that. Now, on the flip side, Jupiter can be all about attention, and it does often receive extra attention, which could overshadow others. And there's a little something to be said about extra positivity and excess of everything, right? Sometimes even extra joy can be a bit too much. Like, let's get serious sometimes, shall we? Right? But that's Jupiter for you. It's everything, all abundance, all everything in abundance, everything in abundance. Which, again, moderation is always the key. But that's the Saturn in me. So, Wheel of Fortune. That's the card associated with Jupiter, and of course, we see the common symbol of that wheel in all the four cards that we are studying. And of course, we have, essentially the wheel of fortune, the abundance, and since it's a wheel, it's cyclical. But we have these cycles of abundance that come in our life. We have, cause and effect, right? That's one part of this card too. And it's interesting that we say Saturn is about karma, which is about cause and effect, but then so is the wheel of fortune. And to be fair, Jupiter too can be about cause and effect, right? But Jupiter is also about that self understanding of that cause and effect. So we know it, right? We understand it that way with that Jupiter energy. And so the rewards that come are there. Everything is cyclical, and these are the changes that, in cycles, which bring more and more and yet some more abundance. But if you have seeded it, that's when you will bring it, right? Opportunities, and all good things come, seasons and cycles and all of that, right? And when we see the creatures that climb up and down the wheel, we also see that, sometimes, not sometimes, but it's like, the things we do, we see the whole cause and effect happening, the good and the bad. Everything flows in a circle, in a cycle. Okay, so that is the way that the tarot has sort of shown us the Jupiter energy through the Wheel of Fortune. In the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, when we have Jupiter in Pisces, the keyword we see is seduction. Hmm? So Jupiter here is associated with gain, Pisces with understanding, sympathy, and sacrifice, and Jupiter rules Pisces. So we have that energy here of gain in understanding, sympathy, sacrifice, right? And this figure is very interesting. We have this is Eve. This is supposed to be Eve from Adam and Eve, the first man and woman according to the Bible, and she's plucking the apple from the tree of knowledge. And this constellation is supposed to be Cassiopeia, which is associated by the Kabbalists with the second major arcana, the High Priestess. Okay. And then we have hearts and flowers, which are the very mundane view of love. Okay. So here, Eve essentially, or the first woman or the female principle, is also taking the knowledge. She's gonna eat that fruit. So Jupiter in Pisces. This energy is, talking about improving life by championing the underdog and those less fortunate than themselves. This is about care. It's about a deep and fulfilling experience of emotional satisfaction that is derived from helping others, often working behind the scenes. This placement creates people who are extremely sensitive to those around them. They have a psychic ability, a mysticism, a higher path, or a religious thought that plays an important part in their life. All of this comes from Pisces, and Jupiter rules Pisces. So we have that. Jupiter brings this very sort of religious, fanatical vibe to this Piscean energy, right? So it's all that. Yeah. So even the people who are improving their life by working for others and caring for others, they often see it more like a genuine sense of almost religious, or sometimes even associated with religious beliefs. There's a whole feeling that this is my purpose, this is my life, that kind of a thing, right? That plays an important role there. This there's a strong sense in the inner spiritual path through seclusion and meditation. They sacrifice a great deal for someone who they love, and having the intuition and ability to sense what the other person wants, right? Now, because of this nature, they can often be very vulnerable to deception from those who seek to take advantage of their caring and sensitive nature. Hmm? This happens a lot. The sensitivity to others plus their desire to please leads them to being seduced by any and every exploiter. So anybody who has this placement, they really, really need to develop that sort of, radar, if you will. Just be careful, right? And they can be seduced for ulterior motives. They can become the victim of other people's hard luck stories. They're always helping people. People will tell them all their, down on their luck stories, and they're like, okay, let me help you. And everything may not be as it appears, right? So they need to know that. They need to not always believe every story, hard luck story that's told to them. But Jupiter is also this whole generous vibe. So they're like, oh, you need help? Let me help you, right? That's Jupiter in Pisces. They get seduced. They get seduced, okay, by all of this, right? So combined with the energy of 9, which is about culmination, completion, ambition, rewards, consequences, humanitarian vibes, social reform vibes. There's spiritual creativity, change of, emotionally changed, divine love, innate talents, karma, and also disappointment. So there's this big energy of the number 9 that all combines together to bring it in the 9 of Cups. your Jupiter in Pisces. Hmm? Let's go card by card. In the right away, we see a healthy, plump man sitting on a bench, his arms folded. He looks very well dressed, like a merchant. That's the whole vibe of the deck. He's wearing this very interesting hat. Behind him, those nine cups are arranged as if, they were some kind of a. He's showing off his cups, he's showing off like a prize, his collection, what have you. He looks very happy. He's contented. He's satisfied. Somewhat smug, even, right? There's that whole smug satisfaction. I've got all these cups. What have you got? Kind of a thing. He's showing off. This is the card of wish fulfillment, but this is also the card of general overall good health, also happiness, abundance, all of that. Now let's come to the Marseille Tarot. Here again, we have, the energy that we saw in the earlier card, but now we have three groups of three cups sort of arranged there. Again, very symmetrically arranged. And now the center also has three cups. And again, we have these sort of vines coming and sprouting from, I guess, the bottom two cups. Sorry, the middle, the central but bottom two cups. And they essentially create the same energy. They connect all these cards to each other, but then they also create like that space between those two cups, all the cups there. Sorry, I keep saying cards, but it's cups. So this is talking about connections, coordinations, different parts working together. So every person in his place, right? Everything in its proper place, and they're like connected, working together. Everybody's in a group of people. Everybody accepts their role and plays it, and so this is harmonious. This can be a complicated group dynamic also, but here we can also say that everyone feels that they're part of that collective and they're happy in everything that they're doing in their whole life. So there's that whole wish fulfillment, contentment they have, right? In the thought again, we see the similar layout, the 3 by 3 grid, if you will, of cups. We see lotus blossoms pouring water into each of those cups, which is again overflowing. And so this is again happiness. That's the key word here. And we do see that. This arrangement in the form of an even rectangle, it represents stability. The blue sky behind represents confidence and peace. We have the calm sea, which is at the bottom. So we have stable feelings and balance. So this card represents bliss, optimism, trust in God, because the both Jupiter and Pisces have this very religious vibe. So yeah, we have that. We have meaningful experiences. We have enjoyment of life, happy business deals, team spirit, happiness and love, deep affection, emotional and physical fulfillment. Okay. Now, coming to the telos, of course, we have this man pointing to the sky, reminding us that the source of all happiness is up above, divine, right? We are following the true will that comes from our connection with that which is above. Then we have, of course, the wheel here. We have the two fish. We also see in the center of the wheel this little triangle, right? And it represents the bottom pointing triangle is also the symbol of water, but this within that central circle, it represents the stillness at the center of the wheel. Now, this man is, this wheel is kind of like a water wheel of some sort. We see this water and it's collecting the water and it's filling all the cups, and those cups are filling each other. So it's like, the contentment is being shared, and this water is also coming from this lotus here. So, divine source of joy that this wheel is turning. That's the wheel of fortune also, which is turning and spreading it. And those cups are also sharing it and spreading it. So it's like happiness is just being spread everywhere, right? So we have wish fulfillment, right? We have achievement of a utopian ideal, heaven on earth, prosperity, gratitude, merriment, seeking fulfillment through a higher purpose in life. This card can be like a portent, or portent would be like, this is like a sign which says, hey, material good fortune and true fulfillment, they're coming, that kind of a thing. Harmony between material and spiritual, optimism, faith, joy that comes from a connection with the divine. So, yeah, Jupiter in Pisces, happiness, wish fulfillment, and contentment. Makes sense, makes a lot of sense. I like it. Here we have all those cards together. Feast your eyes. And then the final decan, Ten of Cups. Here we have Mars in Pisces, right? So again, oh my God, what is going on? Mars in Pisces. Remember the very first Decan Walk video, we had seen how we will have Mars sort of in the big first card and also the last card. So Mars in Aries and also Mars in Pisces. So here we are at my Mars in Pisces. This is the last decan of Pisces. Picatrix describes this third and last decan of Mars in Pisces as an evil man with a woman in front of him who has a donkey above her head and a bird in her hand. Don't ask me to make sense of Picatrix descriptions. It is way above my pay grade. Now, this decan is connected with the meanings marital sexual relations, hugging, lust, intimacy, sensuous desire, tendency to have leisure and relaxation time. So, I guess you can say that all the the sexual vibes and everything is coming from the very Martian energy. Again, Pisces also likes the whole merging and melting whatever things, and so that's where they kind of merge and really I guess they gel with each other, the desires and then the leisures, right? So we do see that this part, okay, makes sense. This part, the evil man, I guess you could say that, it's the violent Mars energy, maybe. But the woman, the donkey, the bird, we need to really sit with this, I suppose, and really study this. This is a whole nother journey. And so we also see, like there's another description that is in the book with the telos, the big book that I ended up getting. We have a man of grave and thoughtful face, with a bird in his hand, before him a woman and an ass. So we have that. And so we have the man, the bird. Do we have a man? We have a man here. Where's the bird? There's a bird. This is why we have the woman, we have the donkey. There's a lot going on in this card in that way. So we have all of that. I will talk about all of this symbolism of the telos when we look at the Ten of Cups, of course. But yes, essentially Mars brings that very warring but also very sexual energy, and the very desires to melt and merge and all of that coming from Pisces. You do see that, right? That is wild. Okay. Mars. We know Mars. Mars is a fire planet. It rules Aries and Scorpio. And Mars is the god of war. It's very masculine energy. It is physical energy. It is aggression, sexuality, temperament, drive, passion, attraction, bravery, impulse, drama, confidence, dynamism, competitive, risk, ambition. right? Sexual playfulness, action taking. And then it can get into that whole aggressive, insensitive, hostile, quick tempered, anger, and rashness. So we have these energies associated with Mars, and in the tarot, of course, we see it associated with the Tower card, and the Tower is all about the complete and utter annihilation and destruction and breaking apart of all structures. In fact, it's interesting. We're kind of living through it now, isn't it? we I mean all tarot people need to know is like we're in the tower right now, isn't it? The whole world is here, and we could have chosen not to be here, but we are here, and it's just wild how we come here. But this is also that part of the energy, like you see this eye of Shiva here, you see the lightning bolt coming in, right? It's part of the cycle too. What is created needs to be destroyed, because those structures, right, the taller the tower becomes, the darker it becomes, and inside of it, because the windows become less, and they the structure becomes restricting, and then it's like nope, it's at some point that structure stops serving the purpose that it was built to serve. But in the process of its utter destruction, sometimes there is no choice, but you have to do it that way. And again, I will still say, I don't know, maybe we can try a better way, because haven't we learned our lesson yet? But sometimes the universe will just step in and be like, off, break it up. And then we have people falling from that structure down on the ground. And so we see all that imagery here, we see all that fire here, we see all the yods, the blessings in the destruction, and all these different symbols here. So yeah, the energy of Mars, this is war, this is collapse, this is destruction, this is breakdown, this is everything that is sudden and destructive. This is crisis and calamity and chaos. But this is also a sudden revelation, breakthrough, freedom, release. This can be a complete breakthrough, shocking developments, the dispelling of illusions, and enlightenment that can just come in all of a sudden. The energy of Tower is sudden and shocking and destructive, but also somewhat revelatory, if you will, and sometimes, oftentimes, even necessary. But the tower only comes when that this whole moment comes when the tower is completely there and not serving its purpose. Like then it's like let it go, let it fall, let it collapse. So here we are. Makes sense? That's Mars. You need that energy of Mars to come in and break it, right? That's what it is. That is the energy of Mars. So when we have this Mars energy in Pisces, right? The keyword from the Oracle of the Radiant Sun is escape. And we see this image of a woman in a chariot which is pulled by tigers. And she's probably escaping from something. She's like turning back and she's like making sure she isn't being followed and stuff. And above, we have the seal with like this boy who's riding a dolphin. And then we have the Buddha, right? So an escape from the material world, if you will. So that's how they are describing this whole escape energy. So Mars is action and Pisces is understanding, sympathy, and sacrifice. So now here we have someone who is dedicated to understanding, dedicated to sympathy and sacrifice. They're using their idealistic energies in the whole Martian energy in visionary and sensitive ways of Pisces, right? I've always said this deck has a more positive take on all these combinations. They have a great need to help others in caring ways, right? They work in positions and situations where they take a supportive background role, which is strange for Mars, but in Pisces it does that, right? Uh, Mars in Pisces has the sort of energy to develop the Piscean imagination. So they have the ability to take that imagination as somewhat of an artistic thing, and then they make it happen, right? So they have unlimited scope for creativity. They can be secretive, both Pisces and Mars, yes. So that we can talk about a secret love or a plot or hidden enemies. The desire to please others to the exclusion of personal needs places them in a complex and uncomfortable relationship or situation. That could be slightly exploitative, just saying. So people with this placement need to be careful too. Interestingly, all these three placements, they are very vulnerable to exploitation, different ways, but they are, isn't it? Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, all of them. Again, this one talks of an escape from a situation by any means available. Using great energy to extract oneself from a tricky situation, shutting one's eyes to the reality of a situation. So, this Martian energy can be used to do good or not to look at that, whatever it is, right? Mars in Pisces. And of course, we have the number 10. We've seen this calculation. 1 is the beginning, it's the primal sort of spark, seed energy. 0 is nothingness and allness. It's like the raw material. It's everything and nothing. It's limitless and unmanifested. And so when that energy comes together in the number 10, we see transitions, right? We see success and failure. We see completion, culmination, excess and extreme, accumulation and dissolution. We have the cycles of ascent and descent. So 10 is often seen as the rebirth of 1, because then again, this energy of 1 is paired with the potential of 0, right? So it's capable of climbing the highest peaks and remains focused on earthly paths and fails to see heavenly heights. It has gone through the whole cycle from 1 to 9, right? Individuality of the 1 has been retained, and then the partnership with the world has been formed. So where 1 is self-seeking, 10 is self-aware. So that energy, which is why, again, so in numerology, you have numbers going from 0 to 9. So when it comes to 10, it's like you're pushing it, you're stretching it, you're taking it to the extreme. And we see that in all the 10s. We've seen that in all of the 10s. So this is our 10 of Cups. Here we have the extreme energy of Mars pushing it in the whole energy of Pisces. So let's go card by card. Here we have this house. In the distance, we have a couple. In the foreground, we have this beautiful sort of rainbow up here with all the cups. And this couple stands with their back to us, really. And they're kind of like, look at our house, how beautiful it is. And then we have these little kids playing here. So again, we have that Martian energy. We have the desire, the lust, and all of that. We have the joyful connection that Pisces brings. We have the home, the family. This is an emotionally connected family. Mars also, I guess, loves to show off. Now, a very interesting observation made by a student and of mine was that, hey, look, their backs are to us. Like, we don't see their expressions. Like, maybe they're just showing off. And that is very much Mars and Pisces, and I agree. I agree. This can also happen. Like, sometimes people are showing something and hiding the true things, right? Like, they show they're a happy family, but maybe they're not. Yeah, you see all of that here. Very interesting. Now, in the Tarot de Marseille, we have this whole 3x3 grid of 9 cups, and then the 10th cup is lying across all the 3 cups. It's bigger than all of them, and the sort of the mouth of the cup, it resembles the coin, the pentacle coin of this deck, which is interesting. So this one talks of leadership, right? He leads all of them. As a person who leads all these 9 cups, this is about receiving appreciation and high status. It is the collective as a unity of a higher order. And with this pentacle, right, these are resources, and he's therefore now pouring or giving them more nourishment. He's assuming responsibility for the others and caring for others, but not for oneself. All right. You do see that. You do see that. That's all. That was also there in the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, right? Like Mars wants to help others. Okay, now let's come to the thought. The keyword here for thought and for telos, we have satiety. Yeah, satiation. Leave it. And here, these 10 cups are arranged on those 10 points of the tree of life. And we see, is it a ray of light or is it water that's kind of, shining from one to the other all over, right? And so this is the tree of life brings the emotional harmony, the deep fulfillment. We see some cups are swaying, right? So they are talking about changes, some instability, because we're pushing it, right? Like it's going to the next one now, next level. So there is some change, there is some instability. We have a big, large red lotus. I think this is in the background. That is giving, there's the all encompassing love. The red colored background is all Mars. In fact, all these cups, the cup handles, right? They make it look like the rams, the horns of the Aries ram, which is the next sign also after Pisces. We'll again come back to Aries, right? And Mars also rules Aries. So you see that connection there. That's interesting. So what happens is we'll be seeing fulfillment, of course, because of the whole tree of life. We see completion, culmination, gratitude, success, happy, enjoying happiness with others, retirement, pampering one another, celebration of joy and success, knowing that culmination is an end to the ascent plus the decline that follows after culmination. So this is the wild part here. What Mars does is with and this is also very interestingly aligned with the 10 energy in that space, because 10 is also stretching it, taking it further. What they're showing here again is, this is not enough. If there was a sign, just like my body is a cage is associated with Saturn in Pisces, I guess this one is the world is not enough, right? It's like the Mars energy is all about more, and we see that because right again in the next decan following this is Mars and Aries, 2 of Wands, wanting to explore the world. So we do see that they have accomplished all of this, but they're not like, oh, this is enough. I'm going to stop right here. No, I'm going to go. I want more, right? And so no matter how high that's always the cycle in a way. That's a very Jupiter vibe. You're going up and down. This is something that will never stop. It's an unstoppable force. That is Mars too. And now come to the telos imagery. There's a lot happening here. Right in the foreground, we see this big red triangle. This is fire, which is Mars, is element of fire. And in there, we have these 10 buckets. And they are, these are colored in the 4 primary colors, which represent 4 elements. So we have earth, air, water, and fire. Those 4 colors are there. And they're all in there. So like there were many buildings which often were susceptible to fire, but they didn't have, close access to water. Then most of the times they would have these buckets filled with either sand or water, and they were often placed where they could be quickly accessed in the event of fire. So that's where this inspiration comes from. Right now we have all of this, and there's this whole pool of water too, And then we see this woman, she's pouring water back into it. So we have, it's like this is excess of water. This is like, I have all this water, but then I want some more water. And here's some more water in the pool of water. What's going on? This is the Mars energy, interestingly, right? With the water Pisces energy. We also see a sort of a well here in the background, right? In the Rider Waite we have this house in the distance, but here we have a well. So this could be a wishing well. Well is often a symbol of life. Of sometimes like there's a place of pilgrimage, right? And very Piscean because life, pilgrimage, mystical aspects are there. The water is there. We have a double rainbow. Hmm? And here, double rainbow is said to be a manifestation that combines fire, light, and water and rain. So it symbolizes the descent of energy of heaven upon the earth. It also symbolizes endings. And a double rainbow has the qualities of the dream within a dream. So, yes, this is the energy. Yeah, we have satiety. I don't know how to say it. Somehow, this this is satisfaction. Let's put it satisfaction, right? This is craving for more after satisfaction, right? So you are satisfied, but you want more. It's like sometimes when you have eaten your favorite dessert and you're like, I could eat some more. I'm full, but I could maybe just have a few more bites, right? That is Mars in Pisces. This is the successful and satisfying conclusion. This is a fleeting and fine line between complete fulfillment and excess. This can be hedonism, in a destructive way. The seductive dream state produced by narcotics. Hmm. The end of a cycle of emotional development with no room for further increase. We have pursued an ideal and arrived somewhere. The happy ending in real life is not an ending at all. A new cycle is bound to follow. This was something that really resonated with me, right? Because if you look at all the fairy tales, if you look at all the stories, you look at like, oh, they get married, a happy ending, happily ever after. But not a lot of stories talk about, or nowadays they do, but I mean, if you see the classical stories, like, oh, married, happily ever after, the end. I'm like, no. Like the more you get into real life, the more you come out of the fairy tale and you're like engaging with life, you start to see that that's where the story really begins. What happened after they got married? Well, how did their married life go? And so you come back to this image from the Rider Waite where they're showing off, okay, we've had this life and we also have two kids and all of that, but we don't see their faces. Like in the Five of Cups, we don't see the face of the man. Like, is he, like, because I think that's Mars and Scorpio, right? So, Mars again. So, is he angrily crying or is he resentful in that Scorpio energy? So here we have Mars and Pisces. So this is more like, okay, we have everything, but we want more. Mars always wants more. Pisces is happy to sort of encompass whatever you're putting into it. It's a big pool of water, and everything is going to melt in it. It'll keep accepting the more, right? So yeah, this is what happens. This is the happily ever after. But what happens after the happily ever after is also Mars and Pisces, right? And you need to really go down there and see what happens. You get these guys to turn around and show their faces, and they'll be like, yeah, right. So we do see that. This is the Mars and Pisces energy, and again, remember, this is the third decan of Pisces, which means the next one is back to Mars in Aries. So this is like the threshold, the threshold between the last zodiac sign and the first zodiac sign. So this is where the cycle ends, but at that ending, we still have the desire to push forward, which I guess is necessary and important because then that cycle will begin again in Two of Wands, where you want to explore, you want to have that adventure again. So you've accomplished something, you're satisfied, but you're like, yeah, but now I want more. So that is Mars and Pisces. I like it. I mean, this is a very different perspective and take on Ten of Cups. And at the very beginning of this Decan Walk, when I, was showing off the charts and whatnot, I was like, I don't see how Ten of Cups could be Mars and Pisces, but now I see it. You learn everything, learn something new every day if you just allow yourself to do that. Like, this is wild too, because your knowledge is like the Pisces pool of water. And then you allow that Mars energy to come in, and you can always have more knowledge, you can always learn more, you can always put more in that pool. And it's okay, it will take it in, it will absorb everything melts into it. That's how I'm going to use that energy though. So here we have all of these cards together. Bear with me a little bit longer because we're not done just yet. Because here we have all the decans together, all the decans of Pisces together. And a quick look at the supporting cards, because we can't forget them. We have this the last three signs. So we have Pisces and Aquarius and Capricorn. All three will be supported by the very clear and truthful and piercing through the bullshit energy of Ace of Swords, the clarity of air, pure logic, right? And the Page of Swords, the young energy of thinking, ideating, being creative, uh, which can again be used positive and not so positive ways as well. So we can see a quick mind that can be knowledgeable but also restless. It can be someone who is always ideating but then maybe manipulating or using those ideas in a negative way. So we see all of that. So this, in a way, is like ace is the clarity, and idea is an idea, and thought is a thought, pure in its form, but it can be wielded differently depending on how that person is inclined. And then we have the King of Cups, who supports the first two decans. So we have the 8 and the 9 of Cups supported by the King. So which is interesting because the King of Cups, we see his throne floating in water, and we seeing him hold this big cup, maybe from the 10 of Cups, maybe, who knows. Here in the thought, he's on his horse, but he has these beautiful wings, and he has this cup with the crab. Yeah. And here too, in the telos, he's on his horse with this cup with the crab. He's fire of water. Yeah. So we have this fire and water energies, which are not very compatible, obviously. So this is the King of Cups, and he supports the 8 and the 9, the Saturn and Jupiter in Pisces. So I think he goes between both those moods, the big, loving, generous, wild energy, and the very despondent and indolent and lazy, unmoving energy. Your King of Cups can go in both those spaces. And then finally, we have the Queen of Wands for Mars and Pisces. And she's the very she's I like her, obviously. She's the creative, warm, generous energy that kind of supports all the the tower energy. while the tower is breaking, she will help you navigate it. And while the Pisces energy, she will help you navigate it. I think this is she's beautiful. I love her. So we have this very intuitive, creative, charismatic, passionate lady who is going to help you handle that energy, supportive energy. So she is water of fire. Again, two energies. So we again for 1 second, right? Like if you look at this, we have fire of water. This is the King of Cups, and water of fire, which is the Queen of Wands. So both of them essentially represent the same mix, but differently, right? So these are the supporting code cards, and so yeah, put it together. We have this. So again, I honestly, I'm at this very interesting spot here. I'm trying to. I have as I was making all these videos, I noticed a few patterns. So as I said right in the beginning of the video, I have one more video coming out for this. I'll be making the slides soon. But I did want to take a moment to thank all of you who have accompanied me on this Decan Walk journey. It is so powerful, and yeah, I mean, it leaves me wanting more. I want to dive into it some more. I will, and whatever I learn, I will of course share with you. But oh my god, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I made it. And it is all thanks to you guys. You have supported me, you have stood by me, liking my videos, putting your comments, emails, all of it. It's been wild and meaningful and enjoyable, and it has helped me really sort of focus and hone in on my tarot studies and my astrology studies as well. So thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for supporting me. And I guess, as I say, I will see you again in my next video. Until then, stay good, be good, and play with your cards. Bye now.